Hi, this is Natasha Lewis from Esther's Place, and today I'll be sharing with you how to create a felted raccoon from our critter of the month. It's pretty cute with all the little stripes and details along with a wood base and embellishments. Now if you do have a glue gun, you'll want to get that warming to do the base and embellishments, but we're going to go ahead and get started on our little critter. So you want to have your foam block with a couple of needles. The felting needles have little notches on them that tangle the fibers together, and that is what actually agitates the wool and turns it into felt, these tiny notches at the bottom of the needle. So watch your fingers, they are pretty sharp, and we want to keep our fingers out of the way. Now I do have a felting tool that sometimes I'll use for larger pieces, so we might pull that out as well. So as we open our box, we're going to find lots of pieces. Now the one that's about the size of my hand is going to be the head. The largest one is going to be the body. And then we've got a variety of small pieces here. We have a tail, we have embellishment fibers for the mask, for the face, for the stripes, for the ears, etc. We have a small piece that's going to be for the ears. We have another larger piece that's going to be for covering and merging everything together. And then we have this little roll, which is going to be the arms. So just go ahead and keep that rolled up for now. We'll get to it later. Let's go ahead and start on the body, which is a cylinder. So you're going to take that and you're going to wrap it nice and tight around your finger. You use that whole piece. You want to keep it flat and smooth and tight as you're wrapping it around your finger. And then just go ahead and give it one more tighten around your finger. We have a nice little cylinder, and be careful as you pull it off your finger that you don't pull the guts out. And we're just going to take and poke that extra fiber in at both ends. So we've got a nice little body that's about that big or so. We're going to then put that into your foam and put one needle in to hold it. That one needle needs to stay out just a little bit. You can see that it's poking through. We can still see that needle. Don't push it in so far that you lose it. And then we're going to start. We're going to start by poking from the edges here. And again, that helper needle holds it for you so you don't have to worry about your fingers. Turn it around. We're going to do the other end. This is the top and bottom now. And then we're just going to do little pokes all over. And this is what's going to start to get it to hold together. Now this is where the tool comes in handy. Doing a larger piece like this, just watch your fingers. If you poke yourself, you got a little bit more injury to worry about. We always have a lot of raccoons around our neck of the woods, and they're pretty cute, but sometimes they can wreak a bit of trouble, especially with our chickens. We have to watch to make sure that our chickens are nice and safe if we've got raccoons around. Okay, we're going to take and we're going to pull that helper needle out and rotate it just slightly. Put that helper needle back in and continue poking, and you'll just spend a couple of minutes getting the cylinder of the body done this way. Now I do a cylinder for about everything. It works perfectly for a good body shape for starting out with people or critters, and it's just a good foundational shape for many different things that you can felt. Alright, let's rotate that again. So you want to do this so it doesn't get too flat. So just make sure that you're rotating it more often than not. It's like a rotisserie. Got to kind of poke and turn, poke and turn, poke and turn. And don't forget about the top and the bottom as well. So our goal is to end up with something that if you squeeze it, it feels pretty dense and solid. Now I'm going to take and flatten the bottom out just a little bit so it'll sit nicely. And you can test that out on the table to make sure that it sits. Try it out on the table, not on your foam. The foam is a little deceiving. There we go, it looks nice and solid. If I give it a good squeeze, it's not going to bounce back too much, and we're ready to start in on the head. So go ahead and just set that body aside, and let's grab that next biggest piece for the head. So for the head, we're gonna do a triangle. Now, if you've ever seen a flag being folded, you're gonna have a little better idea of what's going on here. So we're gonna wad this up in the beginning, just kind of roll it up a little bit and hold on to that. Then we're gonna take and fold it over, and then take this little wad, and you can see how it's kind of a triangle shape. Now fold that over to the side here, and we're just gonna keep folding it back and forth. Now keep it really tight, and it doesn't have to be a perfect triangle, but this is more of a triangle than rolling a ball. Then we're gonna take and poke that in here, and as we poke this, make sure that helper needle's in there securely. As we poke, we're gonna start on the sides. So we have one side of our triangle, we have two sides of our triangle, and notice how I'm coming in sideways, not straight up and down. This is gonna help me get a good triangular shape starting out. So come in the side, and then turn it one more time, come this the other side. So you can see now we've got a triangle instead of a ball. And just keep poking from the direction in which you want it to shape. So if you need it to shrink more on one side, go ahead and just, poke it a little bit more from that one side. Now we can start poking from the top. And as we are continuing poking, one of the tricks to getting a nice smooth finished surface on your felt creature is not to poke as deep. So see here where the needle gets a little bit smaller, it tapers. You want to hold your finger there so that as you're poking, your finger acts as a stopper. So go ahead and just poke the top, the sides, all over to get this nice and solid. Now we will want to take and flip this over once we've gotten all of our sides here. I think we're about ready to do that. So it'll take a couple of minutes worth of poking, and we're just going to flip that over to the other side. Put your helper needle back in there and continue poking on the other side. So we actually flip this like a pancake. Okay, so we're gonna poke until that feels kind of solid and there's no more fuzzies on the surface. I think we're almost there. And then we're gonna get ready to attach it to the body. It's really amazing how you can just poke this and it holds together. And then also to attach it, we can just poke it right to the body. It's pretty awesome. All right. So there we go. We've got our nice shape, nice little triangle shape. And we're gonna put that onto the body. So as you can see, I've got it down a little bit on the body, turn it to the side here. And I'm gonna take and I'm gonna pin that in through the head into the body. Then we're gonna poke the body up into the head. And this is gonna help attach, but don't worry, we have more fiber that we're gonna use to help attach this as well. We're just getting it started. So notice I'm coming in at an angle here, poking the body up into the head. All right, let's take that helper needle out and we'll do the same. Flip it over, put in your helper needle, and then go ahead and poke on the back. All right, a little bit more poking and everything is going to be attached nicely. All right, and one of the ways you can test if it's attached is the wiggle test. You just kind of give it a little wiggle, looks pretty good. Aw, it's looking cute already. Okay, now we're gonna take one of those pieces that is about this big, and we're gonna use that as fiber to cover and blend everything together, so that way you don't see these joins. So we're actually gonna put it at the top of the head and just kind of smooth this down and over. And now the head has disappeared a little bit, but we're just gonna do these short, shallow pokes. And this is gonna help to blend everything nicely together. And And this also helps the head to hold on better because now we have a little light covering over top of it. So I'm just doing little short pokes to incorporate this new piece that I've added on top. And then I'm going to come and we'll get it a little bit more solid around the neck. So find the neck, you can feel it, and we're going to poke it around the neck so that we can kind of have an orientation again of what's the front and stuff like that. And just start doing little pokes all over. Here's the other side of the neck. And the way I like to think about it is you're building like layers of a skeleton, and then this is kind of like muscle, right, that you're building on there, and then like skin color can go on. In this case, we're using the fur color to start with, but sometimes I'll use white on the inside. All right, and here around the back of him as well. And then just little pokes on the head as well, so we can get that extra stuff that we added to incorporate in. All right, next we'll be moving on to the arms and then the tail. So we do want to get this extra fluff poked in on the face. Looking cute. Okay, there we go. So we're going to do the arms. The arms are going to look a little something like this. And we're going to use that piece that was rolled up in a circle. So go ahead and open that up. And we're going to take and divide that in the middle into 2 even pieces like that. Set one aside. And this is kind of a fun trick to making nice skinny arms very easily. It does take a little bit of a knack, so be patient. We're going to take and put your needle on top of the end of the fiber. First kind of smooth the fiber out so it's skinny. Put your needle on the end and fold the fiber over. Now I'm pinching it in my hands and I'm going to crank this needle. So I'm cranking it in my hand. And when I crank, eventually it's going to catch and the needle's going to want to roll this up on there. It does take a few seconds for it to catch. Then I'm going to roll this up and I'm going to take and just keep cranking really tight till I've got that all cranked up on there. And then we're going to take and we're going to start poking it. Okay, so I even give it a couple last cranks here. Now leave it on your needle because we're going to very lightly poke. You're going to get some resistance because it's rolled so tightly, but just give it some light little pokes just to help it hold together a bit. And then carefully slide that off your needle. There we go. The fluffy ends at either end are going to be what we use to felt it in place. So now that we've got our 2 arms, we're going to take and they go right at the shoulders. So I'm going to position it and then poke in the one fluffy side. And it goes right up here at the shoulders. And then go ahead and poke in the other fluffy side. So there's one arm, and let's position the other arm. Beautiful. I know raccoons have cute little hands, but that was a lot of detail. We're gonna just imagine his hands are kind of tucked into him at the moment. All right, so there we go. We've got our arms on there. And the next thing we're gonna do is our tail. So we're gonna take, let's set him aside. The other piece here, we're gonna fold it in a little, not all the way, just fold it in a little. We're gonna roll it up nice and tight. And about halfway down, fold the one side that you folded. So this was the side we folded in, fold that a little bit more and continue wrapping up. So now it feels denser down here and looser up here. That's how we're gonna get our taper. Now put your needle into the dense side. Just push that through. And now you've got it on a skewer. This is gonna help you to be able to poke without poking yourself. I love this trick. It's so nice for doing long objects like legs and arms and keeps your fingers out of the way. All right, so we're doing little pokes. I'm not even going into the foam that much. So just little pokes here. And we can keep the tail a little more bushy, right? We want it to be kind of fluffy and bushy. So just enough to get it to hold together. Make sure you poke on the end a little bit so it tapers nicely. But again, I'm not going into the foam because if you do poke into the foam, you are going to have a lot of fuzz coming up. Okay, so there's my tail. And as you can notice here, we've got some rings on the tail. There's 1, 2, 3 black rings on that tail. So cute! So we're gonna take our fiber here and we're just gonna pull a little bit off. Not gonna need a lot for this. And pull it into little sections. Roll them in your finger a bit. We're gonna start that first stripe down here. So go ahead and poke it in just a little. Keep it on the needle because then you have something to work on. And then wrap it loosely. Don't wrap it tight or it's gonna bind it around there. It's gonna look a little funny. Give it a few pokes to hold it in there. If you poke deeply, you're gonna be pushing the gray through and it's not gonna look as stripy. So just little pokes. And we'll add another stripe up here. If you poke it in first, it's easier to wrap. And then our last stripe. Okay. Look at that, so cute. So now that we've got those stripes added, give it a few more pokes just to make sure everything is in there nice and solid. All right, so we're gonna give it a little curve before we felt it on there. So I'm gonna slide it off of my needle and we're gonna curve it. You actually are gonna just curve it with your fingers, and then where the curve is in the middle, just go ahead and poke it a little bit. You can put a needle in just to help you out a little bit. So we're just doing a little tiny pokes here, and this is gonna preserve the curve of that tail. So when we poke it onto the body, it's gonna be ready to go. All right, so let's see, which direction do I want him to go? I'm gonna have his tail go the other way. You can go one way or this way, whatever you like. So go ahead and position it so that you like it, and then flip it over onto the back, put a helper needle in there, and poke that down. All right, so we're gonna do some ears next, and then we have a face. We're almost there. He's looking pretty cute. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do our 2 ears. So put that aside. And your ears are that small piece right here. And we're gonna go ahead and split that into 2. Now remember how we did a triangle for the head? We're gonna make a triangular ear, something a little bit like this. So put your piece here, fold it up a little to start out with, and then we're gonna fold it one way and the other, one way and the other, and just flop and fold it over so we've got a little triangle started. If it's not a perfect triangle, when we put it on here, we can kind of poke that into shape a bit. So go ahead and poke it. You're gonna take and flip that over, and we're gonna poke it a little bit more on the other side. And you just want to keep doing this till it gets nice and flat and nice and smooth. Little tiny pokes are going to be much better because that'll give you a nice smoother surface. Little tiny pokes. Also, you'll notice the edge where I'm going to be attaching, this one right down here, I've left it fluffy. I haven't poked it as much. Makes it a lot easier to attach. So pick out, like, this is going to be my fluffy side I'm going to attach. I'm not going to poke it as much down here so that it gives us a nicer, smoother surface. And it's easier to attach. Okay. Sorry, I meant easier to attach. All right, so back and forth a few times. I can even come sideways into my edges to sharpen them up a little bit, where I'm coming parallel to the foam, not up and down, but just parallel to the foam. And then we're ready to add in our black. So we're just going to take a smidge, just a little bit, make this into a little triangle, just kind of wad it up best you can, and put that in the middle. And as we poke, go around the outside edges to get that shape started. And little tiny light pokes on this ear. If you poke it deep, you're gonna get all that fuzz come peppering through the other side, and you'll have black on the other side. So we don't want to poke it very deep, just shallow, shallow, tiny, tiny pokes. All right, so now we've got our ears ready, and we're gonna go ahead and attach them. So the ears are going to go at the corner of the head, whoop, right up there. So go ahead and kind of position your ear first. Sometimes you can take the fluff at the bottom here and pry it apart a little bit so that the ear sits nicely. See how we've got it kind of pried to each side. And we're going to take and felt those into the head. So position with one needle, and then poke it in with the other. So here we go. Whoa. I'm just gonna mock it up first. Make sure they don't go too far out to the side or you end up with a baby Yoda. So, you know, a little bit more on the top of the head than way out to the side here. And go ahead and start poking. So I've got one needle to hold it in there, and I'm poking with the other. Now the nice thing too is just, you know, poke these in a little bit, see if you like the position of them. If you don't, you can very easily just rip it off and reposition if you haven't poked it in too much. So just do like I'm doing, light pokes, and then see if you like it. And if you don't, you can pull it off and reposition it elsewhere. All right, and even once you get the ear on, you can continue poking the ear if it's a little big or not quite the right shape. It's easier sometimes when it's on the body to do that little bit of shaping and poking. All right, here's our second ear. We'll attach that in there. And then we get to do the face. So we save the best for last. And a reminder, if you are going to be gluing the embellishments on, you might want to have a glue gun warming, and that way they'll be ready to go. All right. How cute is that? So there we go. We've got all of our parts. Now we just need to add a face. So our face is comprised of a couple different things. We have a white mask underneath. We have our eyes, our nose, and a little smile. So let's go ahead and start with that white. We are going to roll this up just a little bit before we get started. We're going to take and roll it in our fingers, and then we're going to take and roll it in from the side like a little snail. Roll it in from the side. So now it actually looks a little bit like a heart, right? And we're going to put that onto the face, and it goes all the way down to like the bottom of the chin. And we're going to put that on. Whoop. And we're going to go around the outside edge. The outside edge is going to help us to shape it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just getting the general outline going here. And it's going to be kind of fluffy. Okay, so that's just generally what I've got. So we've got that started, and we're going to take and poke that down nice and flat. Next, we're going to be adding our little eyes and our little nose and our little smile. So go ahead and give that a poke for a minute or two. Little tiny pokes again with all of this. All right, so continue poking that face, and we'll be adding those eyes in there next. All right. Whoops. So the eyes, they're really just like the masks of the eyes. Those are going to be the next thing that we add in here. And that is going to be a little bit of our fiber here. So this, we just need a few more pieces. So let's go ahead and pull off a tuft for one eye and a tuft for the other eye. It's easier to make your pieces at the same time so you know they're the right size. All right, we're gonna take and roll that up nice and tight into a little ball. And then we're gonna pin that in. Go around the outside edge to shape it. And we've got our shape right here, kind of a half circle. And we're gonna poke that in. Every single one that I make is a little different. I don't think I've ever been able to replicate something entirely. So this one is I can already tell is gonna look different than my first one. And go ahead and do that with your second one. Roll that up. Pin it in on this side. And poke it in. All right, next we're gonna do a nose. So we're gonna take and pull, I can't quite get them to balance over here. We're gonna take and pull off a little bit for the nose, roll this up into a tight ball, a little smaller than what we did for the eyes. You can even roll it in your fingers. A good trick is to breathe on it. The moisture in your breath helps to actually hold those fibers together. And we're gonna pin that in for the nose and poke around the edges of that. And if you want to keep the nose a little bit more dimensional, just go around the edge. There's a little nose. Now you really don't even have to add a little smile. It's kind of up to you. I'll also show you if you want to add a little bit of blush. Sometimes I use a little bit of blush on the cheeks. And that looks cute. Oh, so adorable. All right, we'll add a little mouth, optional of course. So we're gonna take and put in a little smile or whatever face you wanna give them. So I'm just poking that in with my needle. Then I'm gonna take a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of fiber here, roll it up, roll it up, and poke that in there. All right. So there we have it. There's our little raccoonie. So cute. And we're gonna glue the things onto the base and put them right on the base there. So I'm gonna grab my glue gun here. We've got a couple fun embellishments to add. Let's see what's in here. Some curlies, some sparkles, some flowers, all the fun stuff. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue down first. And I'm going to glue on some of my curlies first to start out, because those I can use to cover up things later. Now be careful with the hot glue gun, but also I'm creating some glue strings. I don't really want to do that. Don't try to touch it too much, just kind of tap it on there. Then we're going to take and glue a little bit more. And we're going to put in all of our other embellishment fibers, or embellishment doodads. Then I'm going to take some of those curls. I'm going to kind of cover up where the glue was, like that. So cute. Then you can put a little glue on this guy and glue them on. So I'm going to put a little glue on the base of our fellow